Say when.
When.
Hey, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/TNRL. That's short for This Non-Religious Life. Over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Take it away.
Hey everybody, it's Monday, May 14th. This Non-Religious Life. I'm your host, Ken. All the way across the country, we have Bob.
How's it going?
And Jason.
Hey, what's up?
And, oh man, I woke up to the longest article you sent in the email today, and all sorts of big thread about it. Couldn't view it, had to get it pasted, and big fight about that. You guys are babies. Just kidding. So Bob, you found this article. Why don't you run us through it really quick?
Well, I was interested in it because, are you talking about the one from the Daily Press?
Yes.
Yeah, I was interested in it because one, it's local, it's from the Daily Press, and two, shit, I'm trying to pull it up. I don't know. It sort of agitated me. Well, the other reason I wanted to think about it is because there's been some emails bouncing around from the Tidewater Atheist group, and so they're relevant too. And I gave it a read, and I thought what was going to happen was have you had that criticism leveled at the new atheist movement, and the most succinct way to put it is that a lot of people in the new atheist movement say there is no God, and then they say, and I hate him, and that.
Well, Bob,
but
how about you explain what the article's about, really quick?
Well, in this art, and I think that's a fair criticism to level, but I don't think that that's what a lot of the new atheists do. I mean, there are some people who are, have that extreme view, and like anything else, it's a spectrum view. But I think the majority of the new atheist movement is very centered on rationalism and making logical points and being thoughtful about what they say. And this article accuses them of doing not that. They're saying that the topic with the article was. And I didn't think that was a fair assessment at all.
No, I think it's fair to point out at this point, the author of this article in this paper is the director of strategic processes for the Campus Crusade for Christ. So I mean, it's very fair to say that he's probably not going at this in an unbiased manner. He wants to pick out Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens. These are the big ones in the whole, and I hate the term, new atheist movement. He also picks out P.Z. Myers and Bill Maher really quickly. I don't really consider them on the same field as, say, Dawkins or Hitchens. Especially not Maher. Maher's just outspoken. He's an expert in comedy.
Well, he points out in his article that atheist leaders and atheist authors are doing things wrong or making illogical arguments, and I couldn't find where he says they did. He just claims that they do, and then doesn't provide any evidence to back it up.
Yeah. One of the things he does is he promotes the book that he's writing called True Reason: Christian Responses to the Challenge of Atheism. And he just talks about how Sam Harris, the leader of Project Reason, debated William Lane Craig in April last year. And the idea was atheism or theism, whether or not it provides a better explanation for moral truths. Now, anyone who's ever watched William Lane Craig debate anybody knows that he just goes off on tangents, huge red herrings, circular argumentation, it's awful. Like it'll make your eyes bleed to watch it. But all he does is he says, Harris ignored these great points that, Craig was making, but he never says what Harris does.
Yeah. I would say that the most of those authors like Harris and Hitchens and Dennett, they will take a very fine point and beat the crap out of it before they move on to the next thing. They're not one to speak in generalities or just sort of vague blanket statements. They're very precise in everything they say and do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Hitchens himself was never, like, brevity was not his strong point,
Yeah.
He would go into something and he would dismantle the whole thing. Like, these are people who, when they take on an argument, they leave nothing standing. Like, you have nothing to build your argument on and against. Like, I would hate to debate them. So yeah, and I've seen this coming more and more, where atheists get accused by the religious of being, not adhering to reason or, being illogical, but there's nothing behind that, it's just an accusation.
Yeah, I didn't think this article was very fair. Yeah, I don't know. And then he mentions this Florida State University philosopher Michael Ruse, himself an atheist, and then he said that the God delusion makes me embarrassed to be an atheist. I don't think, from what I gathered, Ruse isn't an atheist. He's more of the guy that's reconciling faith and science, and I think he might even have leanings towards intelligent design. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, so I wouldn't qualify that guy as an atheist. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think he's an atheist. And then he makes the statement that new atheists insist that Jesus never existed, that he was a made-up person, in spite of the fact that virtually all knowledgeable historians agree with Jesus actually lived. That's not the case at all.
It's a half-truth.
Many of them do.
All knowledgeable historians means most people in biblical studies. Now, most people in biblical studies means, generally speaking, Christians.
Right. That's exactly right.
And then you have the few really good secular biblical studies people who aren't Christians who do latch onto that historical Jesus. Jesus could have been an historical person. Could have. It's not unreasonable to think. But it really bothers me, and my next book is going to be about this. I'm writing it now. There is absolutely no consensus when it comes to historical Jesus theories. None. And it's one of the most irritating, frustrating points you get when you start talking about historical Jesus is, well, just about all knowledgeable scholars agree that Jesus was a historical person. Okay, I'll give you that one point. But the second you go any further than there, Jesus existed, you get nothing. It just splinters off into all these mutually exclusive areas where, Jesus was a cynic philosopher, Jesus was a spirit-filled minister, Jesus was a reforming rabbi, Jesus was a revolutionary zealot, Jesus was a Eastern guru, Jesus was a exorcist and miracle worker, Jesus was a Nazarite Essene, and you can't rectify all of them, and they all claim bits and pieces of the gospel. But when you back up and look at the whole picture, there is absolutely zero historical evidence for Jesus. Zero contemporary evidence. There's no letters from Jesus to someone. There's no diary entries about someone who wasn't a follower of Jesus but maybe saw him preaching on the street one day and said, hey, that's interesting. There's no bar tab that Jesus skipped out on one time. There's nothing. Zero. No signs that said, Jesus of Nazareth lives here, stay off my lawn, you stupid kids. There's nothing.
Yeah, I just you're right, right? To make that statement that all knowledgeable historians agree. Maybe those other historians, maybe they're not considered knowledgeable. Maybe that's where he's drawing the line. But then he says that
that's possible, because I know Ehrman does that, and it's one of the things that really, really irks me. One of the only things that really irks me about Ehrman is he does that. He tries to poison the well by saying, you know, all knowledgeable people agree on this, and all the mythicists, you know, most of them don't even have degrees in, you know, what they should in order to be, you know, even to have their opinions heard on the subject, which is a giant pile of horseshit. What were you going to say, Bob?
No, I was just going to say he concludes the article. He concludes the article by saying that the atheists have difficulty with valid, responsible reasoning, and that's just simply not true. I mean, here we are taking his well-written argument that he would probably perceive as being valid and responsible and well-reasoned, and we're finding logical fallacies in it and picking it apart. It's not. I don't think his logic is valid or responsible or well-reasoned.
No, it's not as ironclad as he thinks it is, for sure. And I think it's, you know, I've watched debates with some of the big new atheists, and I've found problems with how I think they proceed sometimes. You know, like Hitchens, I love watching him debate. It was great. You know, I think he had a ton of great arguments. But, you know, sometimes he would be debating a Protestant, and he would bring up, you know, the egregious nature of things that the Catholic Church did in the past. And it's like, well, that's not really relevant to who you're talking to. But by and large, you know, they engage in fewer pieces of problematic reasoning than almost any apologist I've ever watched debate anyone. You know, I think their thinking is more cohesive than, say, if you were to watch William Lane Craig or, God forbid, you know, Ray Comfort or something.
Yeah, these guys. Yeah, I don't know. This guy. I'm still looking. I'm still trying to see if Michael Ruse is in fact an atheist, because I'm looking at his list of publications, and you know, his books are Darwin in Design, Does Evolution Have a Purpose?
Yeah. Sounds like he's, I mean, yeah, not an atheist from what it sounds like. And this is, I don't think, Tom Gilson, if you're watching, I don't think the problem here is that the new atheists have, you know, difficulty with valid, rational reasoning. It's that he doesn't like it. He doesn't like where that train of thought takes you. So therefore, it's easy to dismiss it as, you know, oh yeah, that just doesn't make sense. Oh, you're being unreasonable. Whereas, you know, I think the arguments tend to be fairly valid. You know, Project Reason, Sam Harris's thing. I was on there forever ago, but they had this massive infographic, and it was the entire Bible with red lines drawing back and forth like this, between verses that contradict each other. And it was just massive. It was just a big mess of red lines.
Yeah, I was looking at the chat here, and Matt says that the wiki entry on Michael Ruse, that he's an atheist and an agnostic. I don't know what that means. But he makes Matt makes a good point. He said that the new atheists paint religion in one form, and that is of fundamentalism, and that he says that's what he doesn't like about their arguments in religion, and blah blah blah. They seem to think religion has to be fundamentalistic. And you know, I thought about this, and I think I addressed this to Matt, and he's right about some guys do that. Like, I know Harris seems to have an axe to grind about religion, and sometimes it's it's funny and I like to read it, and I think he makes excellent points, and I wouldn't say he is poorly reasoned or poorly thought out. He's just the opposite. He's very well reasoned and very thought out. But and Dawkins, he's of the opinion that that religious moderates leave the door open for fundamentalists, and so he sort of groups them in as being just as guilty. And talking with Matt about these things, I realized that Matt does a really good job of thinking through things, and he he has a very subtle and academic view of theology, and I think that more people should be thoughtful like that, no matter what they think. But whereas I think that the new atheist movement is growing, people like Matt are going away, and if they're trying to educate and get people on board, they're doing a bad job, because the fundamentalists are growing.
That's just because they breed more.
Maybe.
I mean,
That's true.
look at Texas.
You know what I mean? Like if a guy like Matt was if a guy like Matt was standing in front of a crowd and talking, right? His message, would be like, think about this or think about that. I want you to think for yourselves. Examine this issue. Let's dissect it. Let's really get down to the nitty-gritty. Not, I got a holy book, God told me to do this, and so that's what I'm doing. Like, it's not like that at all. But those guys are growing. Those guys are becoming a problem.
Yeah. I think both sides sort of paint the other side as being the fundamentalist. Before we got into this, into actually filming, I was bumping around, and I ended up on thestar.com, which is a Toronto newspaper. This guy, Dow Marmur, who is the rabbi emeritus of Toronto's Holy Blossom Temple, and he wrote this whole long article about how zealous atheists resemble religious fanatics. And it's, let's see, he's saying that, religion essentially has the moral high ground, and, all these people tend to, all the atheists tend to ignore things like, crap, where is it? It's hard to find things right now. Religion is an ethical and cohesive force, and it just sort of how atheists hide behind what they call reason and science, and it's the same thing over again that this guy's doing.
I think where religion gets wrong, and this is where where maybe atheism and science can claim a victory. It's that religion says that what do you say, it was a cohesive force?
Yeah.
And it is. It's a wildly cohesive force. Is it the only cohesive force? Is it the only thing that's bringing people together? No, not at all. And at least atheism embraces that. It realizes that it's not the only cohesive force. And religion claims that it is the only source of morality. And atheism and science want to find other sources of morality. Maybe there's something else.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, here's my problem with that statement. Atheism is not a positive worldview.
You're right about that.
No claim.
I did say atheism and science.
Religion is a cohesive force, but atheism isn't. It's like that doesn't mean anything. That's a nonsensical statement. That's like saying, watching TV, is a cohesive thing, but not watching it isn't. It excludes all positive things that you were doing outside of not doing one thing. If you were to say secularism,
you're right. Secularism would have been a better term.
Secularism, but you can't say that, because how many organizations are out there that are cohesive from a sociological point of view that are secular? uncountable number of them. You know,
Yeah.
anything. You know, whether it's your daughter joining the Girl Scouts or, you know, some like community gardening project that's not religiously driven. These are all socially cohesive things, but they're not religious.
Right,
Atheism.
but my point in that is that you could empirically show that all of the social benefits of organized religion can be found in those secular organizations. And again,
Absolutely.
we're back to the belonging, not believing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the new atheist movement, you know, like, I'm with you. I don't really like using that term either, but the new atheist movement is at least exploring ideas of ways of finding social cohesion. Which is funny you mentioned about that atheism, because tonight I'm going to go to the weekly meeting of people who are not football fans.
Yeah, yeah. The meeting of non-TV watchers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird commentary on the world we live in when not doing something is a way that people can describe themselves. You know, it's rather than what they are doing, you have to separate yourself out and say, actually, I'm not doing that, and that's how I define myself. It's odd.
Well, this is where my issue with atheism is, and Christianity. I've never seen it as a movement. I've never seen it as something that I have to do that would help better the environment that I live in. It's never been an activity or an activist outlook. It's never been on the forefront of my mind. I've never claimed to be an atheist my entire life until we started doing this show, and I was like, well, I see the importance that people need to identify with that, to let them know what people's beliefs are, but I don't see any reason for atheists and Christians or atheists and religious believers to be beating their heads together trying to say, well, no, this is right, no, this is right, when we should really, non-believers should just allow the believers to do whatever the fuck they want, as long as they're not oppressing other people, as long as they're not causing harm to the environment, to the people, and to, you know, other people's ideologies. There needs to be some kind of coexistence there. The same way the environmentalists and people believe that there should be a coexistence in the way we live in the earth, we need to have that attitude applied across everything. And I understand that, you know, I understand the reasons why churches talk about hell and devils and atheists and Satanists, because it adds excitement to their
An otherwise boring sermon.
Their sermons. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people enjoy listening to sermons, but it adds that excitement to the sermons when people can believe in this fantasy realm of demons, bad atheists, and, you know, whatever. I understand that, and I understand why atheists would want to challenge the thought of religious beliefs, but I don't understand the fighting. Why can't it just happen to be Christian and atheist, or believer and non-believer, and the only time that they clash is when one of those groups oppresses another? So, for example, say if, you know, the Christian church looks down upon somebody because they're homosexual. Why? That's when groups should go after those people, and because they're oppressing, you know, they're harming somebody's life by doing that. But outside of that, there's no, I don't understand the arguments. And
well, I agree with you. I think that you know, I like a live and let live attitude towards the world, and you know, if people want to have, if they want to have their religion and they want to have their personal beliefs, great, awesome, do it. Go to church, sing Sunday hymns, have a great time. But when those groups start making claims about the world and passing legislation that limits the rights of others, and I'm looking at you, North Carolina, then I feel compelled to speak out about it, and I feel like we have reason on our side, unlike what this guy says from Newport News, Virginia.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I feel like a lot of the arguing isn't, oh, look at these, religious believers, they believe something stupid, blah 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 blah, because I think that's petty. My problem is typically with how religion affects public policy and how it affects people who aren't religious, or sometimes how it affects people who are religious. I think when parents who are, say Christian Scientists, let their child die because of a preventable disease, that's a problem. When North Carolina bans, gay marriage because of, what is a very, very temporary understanding of, biblical scripture, that's a problem. Rights are called rights for a reason. They're not something you can take away from people because they're rights.
Yeah, sadly, my mom lives in North Carolina, and I was talking with her about that. What is it? What was it? Proposition 1, it was called.
Yeah.
And did you know that there's language in that bill, and I didn't know this because I hadn't read it or heard of it until yet. But there's language in that bill. It not only it doesn't get rid of just homosexual marriage, because that was already illegal under the Carolina law. What it does is it codifies that into the North Carolina state constitution, and so it's sort of like, I don't know, now it's written in stone, I guess.
Well, even worse than that.
It wasn't Proposition 1, it was an Amendment 1. It was an amendment to the North Carolina Constitution, which is it's serious business. And, it'll get overturned eventually.
But did you know it also has it has implications for heterosexual relationships, too, in that they don't recognize what they call common law marriages. Like, my girlfriend and I, we've been together for 5-6 years now, and we really don't have any intention of getting married because we've both been married before and it didn't work out so well. And so right now our lives are such that we're not married. But if she were to be in the hospital, or if I were to be in the hospital, she wouldn't be able to see me or visit me. Like we would have to make special arrangements. And now that Carolina passed that bill, like, a heterosexual relationship could be affected too.
Well, they will be affected because by outlawing common law, you wouldn't be able to see her in the hospital.
That's just a bad law.
Yeah.
And did they do that to kind of say so it could be an underscore saying that, well, we're not after, in case they were challenged, we're not after homosexuals, or are they doing it to underscore so they're like, no, we are defining a marriage, and unless you make that bond with God, you're not married. Common law, the government has no.
I think it might be the latter. I think it might be this whole because that was part of the discussion. Guys, here's Matt again too. Matt got us into like a 2-day Facebook tirade about gay marriage, and one guy brought up a good point. He was like that according to, I guess, Scripture, that marriage was between a man, a woman, and God.
Yeah.
And if my girlfriend and I were to get married tomorrow, God would be no part of it.
I got married and God was no part of it.
So do you have a marriage then? Is it?
It's
just as legal.
It is even better because it wasn't done here in the States because of that reason.
And if you haven't seen Jason's wedding photos, coolest wedding ever.
Looked like the coldest wedding ever.
It was very cold. Yeah. It was in Scotland and very cold, and it was
in a castle, in a broken down, ruined castle. Awesome. But
the churches, Christian people who are arguing for this Christian marriage, they're okay with your marriage. You know, they're okay with your marriage because it's a heterosexual relationship, but not okay with a homosexual relationship. And you know, I really think that again, that atheist secular movement is going to win this one because reason and rationality is on our side. And not only reason and rationality, I think we have empathy and compassion on our side too.
Well, you know, I would love to embrace that you said that and embrace that as truth, but the fact that it's passed and that it is on the books, it is in Carolina now.
It'll get repealed.
What I know, but the fact that it has made it is now the official statement of Carolina. That reason, logic, and all that we say that is there, kind of fell off somewhere.
I think that I think that legislation passing is going to be the last gasp of that dying ideology, and it's going to go away.
I wish I could say I agree, but I don't.
Maybe I'm a little too optimistic about it, but I think that's and it is getting media attention, and it is putting that issue like in the spotlight, in the forefront of people's minds, and so much so that there's, you know, Christian bloggers who are saying things like it's okay to evolve, you know, like evolve your opinion, evolve your thinking.
They're not real Christians.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear everybody's like getting really critical of you know, what the guy's saying is it's okay to change your mind. And I think there's a quote that's running around that's, I think it's attributed to Muhammad Ali.
Sting like a butterfly.
Which is, yeah, sting.
Yeah.
But have you seen that, Cam, where he says, like, if a man thinks the same thing at 50 that he did when he was 30, then he's wasted 20 years.
20 years, yeah. Yeah, that's a good quote. It's okay to change your opinions on things. Just admit that you were wrong about something. I actually had a discussion like this not all that long ago with one of my siblings that, you know, changing your opinion isn't such a bad thing. Like, you know, I'm glad I'm not the person I was 10 years ago, you know, because I've taken all the new things that I've experienced, all the new things that I've learned, and I've integrated them into how I view the world now. And that is one of the fundamental problems that I see with at least fundamentalist religion, is that it doesn't allow for the incorporation of new knowledge into the belief system. This is it right here. This is all you get. Don't go outside the box. And it will, you know, this whole gay marriage thing will eventually go the way of, you know, women covering their heads, which is mandated in 1 Corinthians 11. It'll go the way of women teaching or working outside the home, as mandated in 1 Timothy 2:12. You know, is that a weed whacker outside your house?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Weird. I just got some weird feedback.
It was exactly a weed
like
whacker.
Okay. You know, it'll go the way of a lot of things, you know. If you want to talk about sexuality in a biblical perspective, you can't just say, oh, it's homosexual relations that are wrong according to the Bible. If you want to take Paul's stance on it, he thought no one should have sex, ever.
That's just because he's married to Jan. Oh, wait.
Well, yeah, and again, that's one of those instances where, sure, you know, you can pull whatever you want out of Scripture as long as it fits your preconceived notion of where you want to go in the argument, and leave out the stuff that's inconvenient.
Yeah. I mean, Church Father Origen castrated himself on a literal reading of Matthew 19:12.
That's devotion.
That needs to happen more often.
That guy's hardcore.
Origen was pretty hardcore. But, I mean, it's, you know, the idea of sexuality evolves, and that's a good thing. And our stream, okay, no, I thought it was frozen. It was froze on a really bad picture of my face.
Keep going. Don't be watching the
Oh,
video.
it is freezing still.
Just go.
All right. Okay. I'm sure we're recording anyway. You know, and it's exactly what Bob said. You take where you want to sit on the view of sexuality, and then you build your scriptural argument around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You're right, and you see it happen all the time. I mean, the very line in Scripture where I guess it's the one like, and the man shall cleave to his wife, and the two are one flesh. Blah blah blah. Right after that, it says, "Let no man put asunder," and I read that as no divorce.
Yeah, that's exactly what Jesus was
divorce
talking about.
Divorce is rampant.
He was talking about divorce. Yeah.
What did Matt say in the chat room? He says.
What did Matt say?
Of course, we're talking about the U.S., not the Islamic or.
Well, he was talking more about the fundamentalists being afraid that God will judge America if certain things are endorsed by the government. Government endorses divorce. Ask Newt Gingrich.
And they should. Because marriage is not a religious institution when you're talking about religion. When you're talking about marriage in America, it is not a religious institution. It is, and I stand by this so firmly, because it is either a religious institution, in which case, do what you want, define it how you want. The government has no business defining what a religious institution is. But you get nothing. You get no benefits whatsoever from being married. Or it is a secular institution and a civil union between two people endorsed by the government, in which case religious definitions don't matter. And the government, if it wants to change the definition, can, arbitrarily. But it has to do so in accordance with the letter of the law.
Yeah, I know we get caught up in these definitions, and I think if a couple wants to be married in the church and have candles and incense and songs and organ music and a sense of austerity about it, great, go for it. But you're not gonna. That doesn't, and if in your mind, then you have like this holy union and it's extra special and God says it's okay, great. That's all fine and good. But that also comes with social benefits and privileges that should be available to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. The social benefits, you don't get those from hanging out in the church and getting a priest to say a couple words in front of you. You actually get that from signing the marriage license before you go to the church. Yeah,
that's true. You can just get the marriage license and skip all the rest.
Well, you can do that. You like in Vegas, you go down to the court building, you get them to sign the license, you take that license anywhere in Vegas, and you can get married by Elvis, you can get married by whatever's going on there. And it's that easy, and it's less than 30 minutes to do so.
Yeah, I think if Christy and I wind up in Vegas again, we're going to get married by Elvis.
I got married by Elvis. But that's a different story.
But
I mean, anyone can marry anyone. That's the thing. Like, I can marry people. It's like that.
Are you ordained in the Church of the Dude?
Universal Life Church.
But you don't even have to be ordained, though. You don't have to be, as long as you go down to the courthouse and you get it signed, and get the land, I can hand that to anyone and they can perform the ceremony, and I'm still married. Anyone. I can take a homeless person.
Give it to somebody and say like, "Hey, I want you to perform this ceremony, but don't really just say you did," and then we're gonna move on from that.
Well, I mean, you don't need the paperwork then. You can just do that. You can go. You say like if you and Christy wanted to get married, it wouldn't be recognized by the state, but you could come in here. We could set up the cameras and do a live broadcast of me bonding you, and it would be. But as long as we don't have that paper, I could not legally sign the paper. But you could still do the ceremony, still do the whole thing, and in your heart believe that you're married, and it makes no difference whether the state or God has approved it, because in your eyes, you're still married. But if you want it to be recognized where you can get the benefits or whatever, you have to you just go down before coming over here and getting the paperwork, sign it, and then come over. And then I can perform the same ceremony.
All right, well, I'm not going to do that.
Well, I'm just saying.
But you know, I think Matt brings up a good point though, thinking about it, in that there's this belief that if the culture at large is sinful and wicked, then the whole country suffers, and then by extension, you know, this fundamentalist family. You know what I mean? Like they may be living their lives, you know, according to the Bible and being righteous, whereas the country around them is sinful and wicked, and so the whole country suffers, and so they suffer along with it. That's like some Sodom and Gomorrah stuff, isn't it?
Well, I think we've proven this, that no matter how good of a Christian you are, you still get involved with criminal conspiracy. I'm looking at you. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Is it about time to plug that book?
We got to talk about our book and
do that really quick, and then we can hop back on this. I feel like we could probably finish up the rest of the hour talking about this, but I do want to have a message from our sponsor and plug a really good book. So take it away, Matt. Or why did I say Matt? Take it away, Bob. I was reading something Matt wrote, and I wrote that.
I think there's
That
a
is
man
not
crush
good,
going on here.
Our book selection this week at www.audibletrial.com thanks, Matt. /TNRL is The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris. And this is, I thought this was an interesting book, and it's an interesting choice because this is Sam Harris's attempt to find an empirical and a scientific reason for morality, not just what's written down in a holy book, but a scientific and empirical basis for it. And I think he does a pretty good job. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that morality is not solely derived from a holy book. It's something more intrinsic, and it's something about it's one of those things that develops out of community. It develops out of our thinking brains, and this is Sam Harris's attempt to explain all that.
Where can you get it?
I think Sam Harris is an interesting character for what he does. I was always a little wary about science getting into the game of ethics and morality, but what he describes is interesting.
Well, you know,
Harris
admits that
it's an even-handed discussion.
Harris admits in this book that it's all one big experiment. You know, he was trying to find an alternative source of morality and to apply science and empiricism to it. And so he did it to see if you could. He didn't say like this is an ultimate source of morality. He said, well, let's see if we could apply these ideas of science and empiricism to morality. Let's see what happens when we do, and where do we get from that. And he makes a pretty good case that morality can exist entirely outside of religion.
Oh, and does. And that's why I said, I mean, I think he's very even-handed in it, though I was initially skeptical. And this wants to bring it back to the whole gay marriage thing, is that in the long shitstorm of Facebook comments that happened on Matt's page, we got into defining morality, and this is an issue because a lot of what appears in the Bible isn't morality, it's instruction, and there's a clear difference between the two. Just because the Bible says something doesn't mean it's an ethical imperative. And I feel like the people who initially started calling it morality and therefore describing anything antithetical to it, immorality, had no concept of what those terms meant, and it just sort of stuck. Ethics is the application of some sort of system whereby you can not negatively affect those around you. So
yeah. So, sorry to interrupt, Kevin, but one more time,
Sure.
that book is available at audibletrial.com/TNRL. Sign up for the 30-day membership, get a free audio book download. And Harris shows that, Harris shows that morality, for me anyway, that it derives from compassion and empathy, not these are the rules, you follow them.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
what's that other name for the Jewish holy book?
The Tanakh?
I'm being facetious. It's the Torah, which means the law.
Oh. You mean, yeah, okay, yeah. The Pentateuch.
I mean, the Torah is loaded with instruction.
It's basically what it is.
And
I mean,
right,
well,
it's
we
called
look at
the
Leviticus
law.
and all that. Yeah.
And a lot of that has bled over into Christian thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, when you look at ancient religion, Judaism was incredibly legalistic, which other religions weren't. And when Christianity sort of came about, it adopted that legalistic view. A lot of Greeks were fascinated by Judaism because it was a very bookish, philosophical religion. You know, the ancient Hellenistic polytheism wasn't. You know, they didn't have holy books. They didn't have set, mandated, you know, on this day you do this, on this day you do this, and you have to do it this manner, you know, by this time in this way, and you have to wear this while you're doing it. It was a little more hodgepodge.
Yeah, you know, and I even think, like, if you think about like really the simple stuff, like the real simple rules that we think we derive morality from. Thou shalt not kill, the 10 Commandments. That's the big one. Thou shalt not kill, except when God says, go kill the Canaanites.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even then, it's blurry. It's not easy.
Yeah. And we could get into the slaughtering of the Canaanites like we did before with, you know, our good friend William Lane Craig defending the whole
I mean,
thing.
I don't want to, like, you know, beat a dead. Matt said teleological suspension of the ethical. Thanks, Kierkegaard.
He loves Kierkegaard.
He does, but you know, a lot of people think commandments is, oh my God, these are these holy rules. This is the basis for morality. If we didn't have the 10 Commandments, we'd all be, you know, murderous heathens. And yet, God says
terrifying.
go kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That was rule
Which
number
is
one.
a terrifying idea. Yeah. Well, it's not rule number one. It's actually, I think, like 5 or 6. The first 4 are just about how jealous God is.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's right. I was thinking, like, it should be rule number 1 because, yeah, the first couple talk about, like, how awesome God is and I'm the number 1 guy. Then don't kill other people.
Yeah, I have to look it up because I should know this. But yeah, the first 4 are just about how jealous God is. Let's see. No other gods before me, no graven images. Not take the name God in vain. Remember the Sabbath. And let's see. Honor thy father and the mother. Thou shalt not kill is number 6.
So it
really
takes him 6 to get down to the big one.
6, 7, and 8 are just about the only ones that are decent. Thou shalt not kill, don't commit adultery, which is kind of a loose definition. Don't steal and don't bear false witness, don't lie. Coveting, really, you could fit in with stealing. Yeah. You've got 3, maybe 4 good ones out of a list of 10.
Well, maybe he was just doing a dramatic build-up. Maybe.
Yeah. It's building up to the big ones.
Yeah. You know. He was dramatic.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know, but a lot of people, and by a lot of people, you know, thoughtful academic theologians like Matt, I mean
There's
a
lot of
large
Matt stroking.
portion of religious fundamentalists will hold up the Ten Commandments and say, without this, we would have no morality, and it's not true.
Yeah. Which is really interesting from a biblical studies point of view, because Christians really have little reason to adhere to the Ten Commandments. They weren't issued for Christians. They were issued for Jews. It's a part of the Mosaic covenant, which came after the Abrahamic covenant, which even then, the Abrahamic covenant, Christians don't really need to abide by. The reason why, Christians weasel out of things like circumcision, or, eating shellfish, or, getting away with wearing, cotton polyester blends without getting stoned to death, is because they say, oh, no. Those 613 mitzvah, those laws are part of a different covenant, And when you read in Acts the Council of Jerusalem, where they decide that Gentiles don't need to become Jews in order to become Christians, it's really just the Noahide laws that they have to abide by. Noah was given 7 laws that he and his descendants had to abide by, and everything after that is strictly Jews. But homosexuality isn't mentioned in the Noahide covenant, as are tons of other things that aren't.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this one thing is such a sticking point. I don't know why this one thing. Remember we had that picture of the guy with the I guess it's Leviticus that was on his arm. A man shall not lie with another man.
Huh.
And
Yeah,
irony,
Leviticus.
thou shalt not tattoos or mark your skin.
Yeah, he. It's really funny, exactly, because you want to abide by one arbitrary thing in Leviticus, which is really just a matter of like a holiness code. It's ritual purity. Like, you can't do this and then go approach the tabernacle without.
Have you heard I'm sorry. Have you heard Price's reading on this?
Probably.
He maintains that man shall not lie with another man is an abomination. He took this as treatment of prisoners.
It's possible. I know that's his take on the Sodom and Gomorrah story too. That it was, generally speaking, a lot of cities at that time, it was considered good to be, welcoming to guests and not cruel to them. And the whole thing was Sodom was destroyed for being cruel to guests. So yeah, I mean, that sort of, dehumanizing treatment, of prisoners of war wasn't uncommon in the ancient, Near East.
Right.
So
well, that was his
common
reading
that.
of it, but I mean, one, it's interesting, and two, he might even be right, and three, it doesn't even matter. What really matters is that someone else thought about it and has maybe another explanation, not just all gays are bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people bring it up that Paul talked about it too in Romans, and really what Paul's probably talking about is pedestry. He's talking about the Greeks kept the idea of sex with women was procreation, and sex with other men, usually young men, was for fun, and he didn't like that. I mean, but then again, Paul didn't like sex at all. If you go back and read it's apocryphal, but if you read the Acts of Paul and Thecla, you have this woman who's following Paul because she's in love with him, but he is absolutely off sex, and I think that's a good way to get the
like
view
that
of Paul.
sweet Pauline love.
Yeah. It's not a term you ever think you're ever going to hear. Yeah, Paul was completely anti-sex.
I can just see him like
not just
like
gay
Chef in South Park. Woman, I just made sweet love to you.
But the reason why I think Christians get on the whole gay thing isn't because the Bible says so. Because you can obviously you can take the Bible, anything in the Bible, to mean anything you want. It's just that they think it's icky.
Yeah.
No, I think it challenges them because before they could wear, they could stand up in front of the church, wear the shit brown suit with the tacky ass tie and with a comb over, and now that America is becoming more receptive of homosexuality and gay culture, they're going to have to up their game in the way they dress, or people are just going to say that dude's old fashioned.
Maybe it is about what is that? What is that? The one guy that holds up the sign, the gay agenda. 1, be fabulous.
Yeah.
2, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Hey,
But
dude,
yeah.
I think sex with a dude would be icky too. I don't know how women do it, but that's why I'm straight. That's me.
Yeah, exactly. My lack of interest in sex with other dudes doesn't mean I think that other dudes should have to abide by that. You know,
Right.
if you're not grossed out about it, go for it. It's all you. You can have as much of it as you want.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I did sort of like throw the I feel like I threw the gauntlet at Matt a little bit about saying that that sort of like thoughtful academic theology is doing a poor job of getting in the way of fundamentalist bullshit rhetoric, but he did link to a site, what is it, Patheos, where a Christian blogger is saying, like, it's okay, he's sort of espousing for it, and there is this movement now where a lot of Christians are sort of coming out in support of gay marriage and homosexual rights and in opposition to their fundamentalist brethren, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
so maybe it'll get better.
And it's a generational issue. Christians will get over this eventually. There are a number of churches that already have. I brought it up before. The Episcopal Church that I was brought up in, they ordain, gay ministers. They recognize gay marriage in Massachusetts. It's not an issue for them. The Presbyterian Church was torn apart a little bit. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because they decided to recognize the ordaining of gay ministers. This is, it is a generational issue, and they will get over it. It's just a matter of, when all these people either A, realize
Don't derail. Keep going.
Sorry, I was reading the comments coming up in the live stream.
Don't.
Don't. They'll get over it. It's just a matter of when. I have a former roommate and former coworker actually who he works at Human Rights Campaign now, and after the whole Amendment 1 thing in North Carolina, I had to, I was talking to him, and I was like essentially comforting him, because I was like, hey, it's okay, like, you do great work. This is a generational issue. People will look back on this 40 years from now and go, what the fuck are people thinking, man? Like, it's going to be the same thing as interracial marriage was 40 years ago, or women's suffrage before that. Or,
so if you think it's like that, and I agree too. Do you think it will take those stages? Do you think there will be a moment of segregation? I mean, for example, what the Catholic bishops are doing with the Girl Scouts. They're investigating the Girl Scouts to see if they are worthy enough to hold their meetings in their buildings, and if not, they're going to kick them out, and that will draw a line in the sand saying only people allowed in this church or in this building have to adopt to 100% of these beliefs.
I think that exactly will happen. I think what will happen is that sort of those human rights, things like gay marriage, those will become more mainstream accepted, and then those people with those extreme fundamentalist views, they will circle the wagons, and they will become even more insular, and they'll become even further from the fringe and further marginalized by themselves. I mean, look at, I mean, even today when we have groups like the Ku Klux Klan, we look at them and they're like, those are some racist, white, bigoted jerks, and they're really marginalized and considered to be a fringe group.
But no, I mean, they may be considered on the face value that they are, but they're more entrenched than what most people realize.
Oh, they're out there. Yeah, the fringe never goes away. It's going to stay out there for a long, long time. But they're just that. They are a fringe group.
Yeah. By and large, people don't agree with the KKK. When you consider that, maybe 150 years ago, most people would have. Or I mean, even further back than that, 200 years ago, nearly everyone would have. It's a long road.
I wouldn't say everyone, only the white everyone.
Well, the white everyone, yeah. White men,
all
everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
No Clayton Bigsby.
But yeah, I mean that's what happens is those groups they circle the wagons, they kick everybody out that doesn't see things the way they do. They become smaller and smaller, and they become more marginalized and less relevant. And here's the thing, right? Look at groups like what did you say that group was that had the Theological Tea Party? You said those groups that have the gay pastors and are okay with gay culture and gay marriage.
Episcopalians.
So Episcopalians. I bet their numbers are growing. They're becoming more relevant, not less.
So do you think we're going to have more Westboro Baptist Church pop up?
No, fewer. They will continue to be a marginalized fringe group, and they're not going to go away. But and there'll be more like them. But all in all, in taking in the big picture, them with relationships to the whole rest of the world, they will be small and marginalized.
Word. We should wrap it up.
Okay, cool. So what does everyone else think out there? What do you think? These are some hot button issues that everyone has a stance on. Everyone has some sort of opinion on this. So let us know what you think. You can call us and leave a voicemail, 757-337-2195. Don't yell because Jason has to listen to those. You can email us at nonreligiouszombie. Yeah, email us at zombie. This nonreligious at zombie-popcorn.com. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thisnonreligiouslife. You can put us in your circles on Google+. You can go to the website. Just sign up for the newsletter. It'll let you know about this show, what we did this week, any upcoming giveaways or contests, as well as all the other amazing shows we do. I know Jason just had a really, really good show over on Talking Dead, which might kind of tie into this in a biblical sort of scripture sort of way. What else is there? Oh, Stitcher Radio. Listen to us there. You don't have to sync or download anything, just the app. A lot of new cars come with it anyway, Fords and BMWs. You can give us feedback, which we have been loving the feedback on iTunes. Let me tell you, we check it, and wow, thank you. But yeah, so I think that's everything.
One more thing, I want to
hold that iTunes review up to that Shroud of Turin guy, Dan Barton. Like, see, that guy called us brilliant.
But I want to let you know, if you sign up for the newsletter, make sure you do it before Saturday, because that's when the newsletter goes out. And we are going to be giving away one free copy of Ken's book.
Oh,
so
really?
if you want that, Better sign up
That's
now.
awesome. Can I win?
So that's it.
All right. If that's everything, then yeah, that's it.
All right.
And we'll see you next week.
Next week.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks to everybody in the chat room. One.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Bye, Matt. We're gonna disconnect now. Bye.